My boss's son offered me a lift, and what transpired by the time we reached our destination, at 54 years of age, I have spent the majority of my life under the impression that I had all the answers neatly arranged. I toiled diligently, shielded my heart, and persuaded myself that love, authentic, chaotic, and intricate, was a pursuit meant for younger women with ample time ahead of them. A decade has passed since my marriage concluded in silence, and in that time, I have merely drifted through life. I believed I had come to terms with it. I maintained an orderly, consistent, and polished approach. What transpired that day within the confines of the car? It shattered a barrier within me. I had no idea that they were still among us. Never did I imagine that an event of this nature could unfold in my life. Kindly, avoid repeating the error I once made. It began on a Thursday, the sort that seems to linger, as if determined to test your patience. The office felt stifling, the printer had succumbed to yet another jam, and my boss was in one of those moods where even the slightest sound could ignite a tirade. I lingered longer than usual, as I often do, wrapping up the final details. That is the essence of my being, reliable, detail-oriented, and subtly present when it matters most. That afternoon, his son Ethan found himself within the confines of the building. He was engaged in addressing a summit issue within the primary conference room concerning a network security enhancement that I had encountered him perhaps 3 or 4 times prior. In his mid-30s, he stands tall and lean, exuding a confidence that feels almost too mature for someone of his age. His mother's eyes were warm brown, yet they held a sharper edge at the corners, compassionate yet perceptive. He didn't merely glance in your direction. He truly perceived you. As I collected my bag and coat, the hallway lights dimmed, the motion sensors subtly signaling that I was the final presence in that space. That moment, Ethan emerged, securing the server room with a decisive click of the lock. "Are you preparing to leave?" he inquired. I inclined my head in acknowledgement. Long last. I believe I've been battling that printer for a duration that rivals the time it took Edison to create the light bulb. His laughter erupted, rich and resonant, a welcome sound that broke the stillness of the vacant office. "Did you park quite a distance away?" he inquired. "On the opposite side of the lot. I find my familiar place beneath the flickering lamp." He cast a fleeting look out the window. The clouds gathered, heavy and swift, enveloping the sky. The rain whispered against the glass, hinting at the promise of something more substantial to come. "Allow me to offer you a ride," he remarked, striding toward the exit with an effortless assurance that some men possess without even realizing it. The darkness envelopes the surroundings as the rain begins to cascade down. There was a moment of uncertainty. I was not uncomfortable, that much is certain, yet it carried a distinct sensation. The proposition concerning him caused me to hesitate for just a moment longer than usual. "Are you certain?" I inquired, aiming for a tone that felt effortless. He pivoted, giving a slight shrug accompanied by a gentle smile. "If I weren't sincere, I wouldn't extend this offer." Thus, I pursued him. The interior of his car gleamed, infused with a subtle aroma of cedar and leather. He calibrated the temperature as soon as I entered, as if he possessed an innate awareness that the office transformed into a frigid chamber once the sun dipped below the horizon. It was considerate, gentle in its approach, simply pleasant. As we exited the lot, the windshield wipers danced in a steady cadence, battling the intensifying downpour. "Do you always linger until that hour?" he inquired. My eyes flickered toward him. It falls upon someone to take action. He wore a sly grin. "That is a phrase my father often expresses." A soft chuckle escaped my lips. Indeed, he has a point. He typically utters it as he strides out the door, an hour ahead of schedule. We shared a laugh in that moment, and the ensuing silence felt comfortable, not awkward. It seemed effortless. The dialogue continued to unfold effortlessly, concerning labor, concerning melodies, concerning the void and the infinite. He shared with me the details of his side projects, including the cabin he was renovating by the lake. I spoke of my younger days spent sketching, a time now overshadowed by the busyness of life. I'm unsure of the reason behind my confession to him. It had slipped from my mind for so long. At a certain moment, while waiting at a stoplight, He glanced my way once more, not with flirtation or excessive intensity, but simply with a sense of presence. Have you ever pondered what your life might look like had you chosen a different route, one less tethered to safety? He inquired gently. It was an unassuming inquiry, yet it struck a chord deep within me, awakening feelings I hadn't confronted in ages. I gazed through the window. The rain had transformed into a delicate mist, with the streetlights illuminating the scene in a warm, golden glow. Constantly, I remarked. He nodded slowly, an air of comprehension lingering, as if he grasped more than was intended. We arrived at my place sooner than I had anticipated. I gestured toward the driveway. This one, I declared. He eased into the moment, the engine humming softly, allowing the farewell to linger without haste. For a brief moment, we remained still, suspended in time. "Thank you for the ride," I remarked, my hand moving toward the handle. His fingers brushed against my arm, a mere whisper of contact, yet it was enough to halt my thoughts. "I truly meant it," he said softly, "about not always choosing the safe path." In his voice, there lingered a quality, soft yet resolute, that caused a tightening in my chest. I offered a subtle nod before exiting, my feet meeting the refreshing embrace of the cool air. As I approached my front door, I sensed his gaze upon me, not in a manner that stirred self-consciousness, but rather in a way that enveloped me in a feeling of being truly seen. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, uncertainty enveloped me. I found myself unsure of what I was leaving behind or what awaited me ahead. Slumber eluded me that night. As I reclined, my gaze fixed upon the ceiling, I absorbed the sporadic creaks of the house as it settled and the gentle ticking of the clock perched on my nightstand. Yet my thoughts drifted to that car, to that moment of hesitation before I turned the handle, with the gravity of Ethan's words resonating in my mind, on the importance of occasionally veering off the beaten track. It wasn't so much the words he uttered, to be honest. It was in the manner of his utterance, as if he were delving into something far beyond mere careers or hobbies. As if he intended for me. It was as if he glimpsed a part of me that I had meticulously concealed beneath the veneer of a carefully curated existence. The following morning, I slipped into a cozy navy sweater that had remained untouched for years. It hugged the waist a bit too tightly, yet it accentuated the hue of my eyes and stirred something within me. A hue that dances with life, that I reassured myself that it was trivial, that no one would pay attention. Yet a fragment of my being yearned for the possibility that someone would. To my surprise, I encountered Ethan again sooner than anticipated. As I ventured out for lunch and made my way to the nearby cafe, I spotted him perched on the bench outside, a coffee cradled in his hand, engrossed in his phone as if he were an integral part of the surroundings. As I walked by, he glanced up at that very moment. "Ah, indeed. Destiny has cast its hand once more." I arched an eyebrow, a smile tugging at the corners of my lips despite my better judgment. "This cafe boasts an array of delightful sandwiches." "Destiny plays no role in this matter, of course," he replied, rising to his feet and flinging his cup aside. "Mind the company." We found ourselves at a quaint table nestled by the window. Tea wasn't a mere lunch, yet it carried the weight of something more significant. He inquired with genuine curiosity, delving into my profession, my daughter who resided far away, and how I spent my weekends in the quiet absence of others' expectations. I shared with him my fondness for wandering through art museums by myself, how I would lose myself in the depths of paintings, envisioning the lives of the subjects and the emotions that stirred within them as the brush met the canvas. I shared with him how it had been years since I last experienced that, how life had morphed into a series of errands and grocery runs, and the silent rituals one settles into, much like slipping into a well-worn pair of shoes. And Ethan listened, not with the absent-minded nods I had come to expect from men who merely awaited their moment to speak. He leaned closer, posed thoughtful questions, and made me feel as though my life retained its intrigue, still deserving of curiosity. As we concluded our time together, I began to extend my hand toward my wallet, yet he interjected, halting my movement. "This one's on me," he declared, a warm grin spreading across his face. "I am indebted to you for the delightful office entertainment yesterday." Are you referring to my grand confrontation with the printer? A chuckle escaped my lips. That is indeed the one, he remarked. Mythic, as we ventured outside, the wind had intensified, playfully sweeping my hair across my face. He instinctively reached up, his fingers softly sweeping back, lingering on my temple for a heartbeat longer than necessary. I stood still, not from fear, but because a profound change stirred within me. In that fleeting instant, an unvoiced connection surged between us, a wave of understanding, a subtle tremor. He cleared his throat, taking a step back. I apologize. I gently shook my head, a silent gesture of disbelief. Refrain from doing so. A profound stillness enveloped the space. It wasn't uncomfortable, yet it posed a question that lingered unspoken between us. He gazed at me then, his voice softer than it had been previously. Have you ever considered the possibility? I'm uncertain. Take action. Not merely a midday meal at a cafe, you casually stroll past. I parted my lips, only to seal them once more. It wasn't due to a lack of desire. It was due to my actions, and that filled me with fear. Ethan was the son of my boss, younger than me, not by a full generation, but just enough to provoke a few raised eyebrows among the onlookers. I could already hear them, coworkers, old friends, and my own inner critic, whispering, "You should know better." Yet, in that instant, none of them occupied my thoughts. I found myself reflecting on the vibrant sense of existence I experienced, the profound feeling of being truly acknowledged. I gave a subtle nod. Very well. His smile broadened, devoid of triumph or arrogance, simply radiating joy. I'll text you, he declared. And he indeed did. Later that evening, as I lingered in the kitchen with a glass of wine in hand, gazing out at the serene street, my phone suddenly illuminated a singular, straightforward message. Are you available this Saturday? My gaze lingered on it for what felt like an eternity before I finally set my fingers to the keys and responded. Indeed, uncertainty shrouded the destination of this path, leaving me in a state of wonder. Yet, for a change, I found myself not seeking the most secure path. Saturday arrived more swiftly than I had anticipated. This morning, I found myself fretting over my outfit, a rather ridiculous endeavor considering our agreement to keep things casual. Ethan had mentioned the idea of heading out to the lake, stopping by a charming little roadside diner he adored for some food. Yet there I was, lingering before the mirror, experimenting with various blouses, slipping in and out of jeans, toying with my hair until a chuckle escaped me. After much deliberation, I chose a soft cotton shirt that strikes the perfect balance, fitted just enough to be flattering, yet relaxed enough to convey an effortless vibe. Indeed, that was precisely the case. Just a touch. He arrived at my driveway precisely on schedule. His car shimmered under the warm embrace of the early afternoon sun as he emerged, clad in a navy flannel layered over a crisp white t-shirt, a gentle breeze tousling his hair. He resembled a postcard rendition of himself, exuding a sense of natural ease and effortless charm. He paused, his gaze sweeping over me. Incredible. Warmth flooded my cheeks. "So do you," I remarked, wishing my voice conveyed more steadiness than the tremor I sensed within. The journey to the lake unfolded in serene tranquility. The highway stretched ahead, bordered by early summer trees that were just starting to burst into full bloom. The radio emitted a gentle hum, filling the air with soft, acoustic melodies. Initially, our conversations were sparse, yet the quiet between us felt comfortable. Amicable. In due course, I inquired about the lake. "It's not much," he remarked. "A cherished spot my mother would bring us to during our childhood. A forgotten little dock, abandoned by all but the whispers of time. I thought you might appreciate it." I certainly did. Upon our arrival, the stillness enveloped us, surpassing even my wildest expectations. The lake glistened beneath the soft azure expanse, its surface calm and pristine, save for the fleeting disturbance of a gentle breeze. The dock extended before me, an unremembered path, worn yet unwavering. We strolled to the precipice and settled ourselves, allowing our legs to dangle freely over the edge. For a time, we simply absorbed the sounds around us. Above us, birds soared gracefully, while the trees whisper softly in the distance and the old dock creaks gently underfoot. What was the reason for bringing me to this place? I inquired softly. Ethan hesitated before responding. He gazed over the expanse of water, his fingers absent-mindedly gliding along the wood at his side. He spoke slowly, as if the words were carefully chosen, because you evoke memories of this place. I glanced at him, a look of confusion crossing my face. It is serene, exquisite, and often ignored by those who lack the ability to truly appreciate its essence. The word struck me with an unexpected force. I gazed at my hands, feeling a slight hitch in my breath. Your words have a piercing clarity, I remarked gently to end that moment. His gaze met mine with a depth that felt almost tangible. Would you like me to cease?
No, y murmurat.
Not at this moment. We lingered in that moment, simply existing together. The sunlight transformed into a warm golden hue as the late afternoon quietly approached. In a moment of instinct, I found myself leaning into him, and to my surprise, he remained still, not pulling away. His arm grazed against mine, and the warmth of him seeped into my skin, as if it were meant to be there. At last, he shifted his gaze in my direction. May I inquire about something personal? He asked. I inclined my head in acknowledgement. What compels you to maintain such a guarded demeanor? That caused me to stop and reflect. It seems I started this journey because, for an extended period, no one sought to explore anything beyond the surface, and it felt simpler to withhold what lay beneath. He observed me intently, his face a mask of inscrutability. However, I added. Perhaps at this moment, with you did I end that moment. He extended his hand toward mine, not with urgency, but with a gentle, inviting motion. I would allow him to have it. I'm not trying to rush anything, he murmured softly. Yet, I perceive you, and I find much to appreciate in what I behold. My throat constricted, not due to disbelief, but because a fragment of my being had finally surrendered to the truth. We lingered until the sky was brushed with a gentle pink hue as we journeyed home. Our words were few, yet the quiet between us felt transformed. It bore a weightier warmth. A change had occurred, and we were both acutely aware of it. As he arrived at my doorstep, he silenced the engine yet remained still, lost in thought. I released my seatbelt and cast a fleeting look in his direction. I expressed that I had a delightful experience. Same here. A moment lingered. I'm not quite certain what this is, I murmured, my voice barely above a whisper. Yet, I am aware that it is far from nothing. He leaned in a fraction, not seeking a kiss, merely desiring proximity. It is not nothing, he remarked. It marks the beginning of a journey, should we choose to embrace it. I gave a slight nod before pushing the door open. Before I ventured forth, I cast a glance behind. I asked that you, Ethan? Indeed? Thank you for taking the time to see me, he said with a smile. Not merely with his lips, but with the entirety of his visage. That night, as I settled into bed, the silence transformed, no longer bearing the weight of loneliness. It resonated with a sense of completeness. The days that ensued were tranquil, yet not in the manner of tranquility I had previously experienced. Within me, there was a stillness, a sense of calm settling as if a long-held secret had finally been unveiled. I found that all I truly required was a sense of contentment. Having reached this point, there was no turning back for me. It had been a few days since Ethan and I had crossed paths. The day at work was bustling with activity. Life intervened, as it often does. Yet, we exchanged messages. Nothing excessive, nothing extravagant. Merely check-ins, exchanged reflections, the sort of messages that brought a subtle smile to my face as I sipped my morning coffee. It was a Wednesday when he inquired if he could come over. He possessed a motive. He mentioned that he had forgotten something in the office and required assistance in locating it. Yet, we both understood that this was not the whole truth. He arrived just as the sun dipped below the horizon. I had placed a few candles around the living room, driven more by habit than by any deliberate thought, yet the soft glow perfectly complemented the atmosphere. I wore my coziest sweater and a pair of jeans that had weathered time, yet embraced me like a cherished recollection. As I swung the door open, his weary expression transformed into a radiant smile the instant our eyes met. "Hey," he remarked as he entered. "I trust this message finds you in good spirits, even if it arrives a tad later than intended." "Not in the slightest," I replied. "Would you care for some tea? Or perhaps something more potent?" He offered a smile. "Tea seems just right." Indeed, we settled onto the couch, mugs cradled in our hands, allowing the silence to unfurl between us once more. At ease now, well known. It felt as if our connection spanned a greater expanse of time than the reality of our acquaintance allowed. He inquired, "Do you ever find yourself wishing you had taken more steps for your own well-being earlier?" The inquiry was not intended to wound, yet it pierced profoundly. I placed my mug on the table and paused to reflect. There were times, I confess, when I dedicated many years to constructing a life that appeared appealing from the outside. A dependable job, a consistent routine, a tidy kitchen, and timely bill payments. Yet, in pursuit of this endeavor, I sacrificed fragments of my very essence. The intriguing facets, the fervent elements, the courageous aspects. He inclined his head with a deliberate slowness. "Yet they remain within." "I believe they are," I remarked. "They merely required a gentle nudge to bring me back to the forefront of their thoughts." He gazed at me then, his eyes gentle and unwavering. "I have no intention of rescuing you. If that's your assumption, that I understand," I murmured softly. "Yet you have reminded me that I am permitted to desire something. Even if it's chaotic, even if it doesn't align perfectly with the expectations of others." The gap that once separated us diminished, not in miles, but in the depth of our comprehension. He extended his hand once more, softly grasping mine. This time, I moved forward without a moment's pause. "I don't want to become a source of your regret," he said. "I hope you don't feel any sense of obligation towards me. I simply desire to be part of this journey with you, no matter where it leads us." My heart throbbed in that familiar, comforting manner that arises only from encountering precisely what you never knew you were longing for. "Neither of us knows what comes next," I murmured, my voice barely rising above a whisper. Yet, after what feels like an eternity, I find myself unafraid to uncover the truth. He leaned in, a deliberate motion, posing the question not through words, but through the weight of his presence. And when our lips met, it was neither fireworks nor grand music. It possessed a certain stillness, more profound, a release, akin to exhaling after an eternity of restraint. We took our time.
There was no necessity for that.
The kiss may have concluded, yet the moment lingered on. We lingered near, our foreheads brushing softly, our hands tenderly intertwined as if cradling something delicate between us. In the aftermath of his departure, I found myself by the window, observing the fading glow of taillights as they vanished into the distance. A swirl of wonder and trepidation enveloped me, for embarking on a new journey at 54 is no simple feat. This kind of endeavor lacks any established blueprints. There are no assurances. Yet there lingered another element, as well, anticipation. Genuine, tranquil optimism. I had lingered too long, allowing life to unfold in its own chaotic manner around me. At long last, I found myself prepared to embrace it once more. Not in the capacity of an employee, not merely as an ex-wife, not even in the role of a mother to another, yet as myself. Perhaps, in the grand scheme of things, that was all that was needed.